New York's Democratic leadership's hypocrisy knows no bounds evidently. They are cutting funds to the Special Olympics and giving themselves a big, fat raise a week after Democrats in Washington, D.C., expressed outrage over the Trump administration proposing cutting funds to the Special Olympics. Trump overrode that and they did not cut funding, but the Democrats sure did. New York's budget for the Special Olympics decreased from $200,000 in 2018 to $150,000 for this year, the Daily Caller reported. Meanwhile, every one of the state's 213 lawmakers will ultimately receive a raise that is almost the same amount cut from the games for disabled athletes. See how that works? The Special Olympics is a private charity, but still. Screwing over disabled children to line your own pockets? That's shameful. Special Olympics New York CEO and President Stacey Hengsterman released a statement on the development. Special Olympics New York is thankful to the governor and legislature for securing $150,000 in state budget to support our Unified Champion Schools program, which is creating inclusive school communities throughout New York State. The budget process is always difficult and we are grateful we had so many champions advocating on our behalf. We will continue to work with our representatives in state government to hopefully increase these funds and continue to grow this important program. That was gracious. She's a more diplomatic person than I am. I'll leave it to your imagination as to where I would tell New York's lawmakers to stuff it. The state is upside down financially. They are in big trouble fiscally. I could understand cutting the funding to the Special Olympics but giving a raise to corrupt Democratic politicians at the same time? That's flipping off New Yorkers and not giving a crap about what anyone other than your comrades think. UC repeatedly attacked the Trump admin last week when it cut funding to the Special Olympics. Now Democrat-controlled New York is cutting funding to the Special Olympics and giving lawmakers a raise. UC is silent. Her office has not responded to multiple requests for comment. pic.twitter.com/ViewWolfgate. Ryan Saavedra at Real Saavedra. April 1, 2019. From the Daily Wire, the budget, which was decided on Sunday, increases New York State lawmakers' salaries from $79,500 to $110,000 and raises Governor Andrew Cuomo's salary by $70,000, increasing it to $250,000. The Trump administration faced intense backlash last week after it decided to cut funding the Special Olympics, which led to President Donald Trump overruling the decision. "I heard about it this morning," Trump said on Thursday. "I have overridden my people. We're funding the Special Olympics." One of the loudest voices against the decision was Socialist Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, DNY, who seized on the opportunity to attack the administration. "I see Betsy DeVos and the GOP are doubling down on their anti-everybody agenda by working to cut Fed funding for the Special Olympics," Ocasio-Cortez tweeted. "The good news? You elected a House Dem majority, so we can halt it. Now, who are your favorite disability advocates to follow?" Betsy DeVos loves the Special Olympics so much, she wants to cut federal funding for it, Ocasio-Cortez tweeted. "She loves students so much, she changed rules to make campus sexual assault victims more vulnerable. And she loves teachers so much she wants to cut student loan forgiveness, too." Ocasio-Cortez is certainly a piece of socialist work. "I see Betsy DeVos and the GOP are doubling down on their anti-everybody agenda by working to cut Fed funding for the Special Olympics. The good news? You elected a House Dem majority, so we can halt it. Now, who are your favorite disability advocates to follow? Share below, down arrow, https://t.co/8lsl5-7, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, @OC. March 28, 2019. The Trump administration's education budget proposal called for the elimination of $17.6 million in funding for the Special Olympics, amounting to roughly 10% of the group's overall revenue, the Daily Mail reported. Most of its funding comes from individual and corporate contributions and other fundraising efforts. The Special Olympics is the largest sports organization in the world for people with intellectual disabilities, with over 5 million athletes from 174 countries participating in competitions while spreading a global message of inclusion and empowerment. Trump 2020 Deputy Communications Director Matt Woking called Democrats out for their faux outrage surrounding the cuts to the Special Olympics. "I'm sure Democrats who see abortion as the cure for Down syndrome and other disabilities are sincerely concerned about kids having the chance to be in the Special Olympics," Woking tweeted. The Special Olympics, by the way, is a private charity with $61.3 million in net assets that gets only 10% of its funding from taxpayers and enjoyed a $1.8 million surplus in FY 2016. Betsy DeVos loves the Special Olympics so much, she wants to cut federal funding for it. She loves students so much, she changed rules to make campus sexual assault victims more vulnerable. And she loves teachers so much she wants to cut student loan forgiveness, too. https://t.co/jv20 Review 4, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, at March 28, 2019. Oddly, Ocasio-Cortez is now silent on New York Democratic lawmakers giving themselves these raises. Go figure. State lawmakers received their first pay raise since 1999 in January, earning $110,000 from $79,500. Under the budget, legislators will eventually earn $130,000 in 2021. The plan also raised the salary of Democratic Gov. Andrew Cuomo by $70,000 to $250,000 a year, the highest of any governor. No wonder this jerk smiles so much. He likes playing the Godfather of New York. The Special Olympics, by the way, is a private charity with $61.3 million in net assets that gets only 10% of its funding from taxpayers and enjoyed a $1.8 million surplus in FY 2016, Matt Woking, at Matt Woking, March 28, 2019. This is an emotional issue, Joy Behar said on The View Friday. You don't want people running the country who have no sympathy or empathy for the poor and disabled. I agree. That would eliminate most of the Democrat Party. Behar gets one right for a change. Republican State Senator Chris Jacobs, I am appalled that this budget gives pay raises to the governor and lieutenant governor at the same time that it cuts funding for Special Olympics. Right there with you on that one. I am committed to trying to find a way to ensure these cuts are restored and programs fully funded. Let's hope so, but I wouldn't hold my breath over it. This is the Marxist utopia of New York after all. Hey Atok, where is your outrage over the NY Democrats cutting funding for the Special Olympics? Guess only if it's the Republicans you have a problem with it? pic.twitter.com/7qtdqg9 was, Joe, at Turfway Joe April 2, 2019. Donate, now to build the wall with Brian Kolfage. Click below. Democratic 2020 hopeful Beto O'Rourke backed off his initial opposition to slavery reparations on the fourth day of an Al Sharpton event. This does not shock me in the least. In fact, I would have been surprised if he hadn't pandered to the reparations crowd. The rest of the Democrats are already doing so, and Al Sharpton holds a lot of power in the party these days. Beto said he would support a bill in Congress to study and consider the payments. What boggles my mind is that O'Rourke is a three-term congressman from Texas. How the heck did he ever get elected there? It must be California implants that did it, you know. The Austin crowd. He made his comments in New York before the National Action Network, a civil rights organization founded by Al Sharpton. Sharpton asked O'Rourke if he'd back a measure introduced by Democratic Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, a fellow Texan. O'Rourke answered, yes. Civil rights are not just those victories that began with at the outset of my comments, but the injustices that have been visited and continue to be visited on people. We will never get the change that we need to live up to the promise of this country. So absolutely, I would sign it into law. This is political and racist pandering at its very worst. Beto has definitely shifted his opinion on slavery reparations, and it's all for 2020 and the Democratic nomination. From Fox News, campaigning in Iowa last month, O'Rourke indicated he was not in favor of traditional reparations but stressed that it was crucial for the nation to confront the truth of how black people have been treated in America and that systematic racism exists in the country. And a few days later, campaigning in New Hampshire, O'Rourke said, I don't believe that reparations should be the primary or initial focus of the conversation. The idea of slavery reparations for Black Americans is at least partially backed by 5 Democratic presidential candidates so far, since Kamala Harris of California and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, former San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro, who served as housing secretary under President Barack Obama, businessman and entrepreneur Andrew Yang, and Rep. Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, who has co-sponsored Jackson Lee's bill. I think we need to bring about reparations. It's really a question of what is the right way and how, Gabbard told Fox News last month. The push by some Democratic White House hopefuls points to the further importance of race and identity issues within the party. While supporters say reparations are needed to address slavery and other racist aspects of American history, critics say such a move could cost several $1 trillion without solving racism. Jackson Lee, introducing her bill in January, highlighted that the impact of slavery and its vestiges continues to affect African Americans and indeed all Americans in communities throughout our nation. She explained that the measure, formerly known as the Commission to Study and Develop Reparations Proposals for African Americans Act would examine the institution of slavery in the colonies and the United States from 1619 to the present, and further recommend appropriate remedies. The bill currently has more than 30 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives and, last month, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she would support the legislation. Jackson Lee is not only a Marxist. She's also nuts. Anyone who aligns themselves with her or someone as morally bankrupt and corrupt as Al Sharpton is not fit to be president. Sharpton later credited another Democrat vying for the presidential nomination, former San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro, with driving the issue to the forefront in the presidential race with comments he's made in past weeks. So, you see, Sharpton is hedging his political bets just in case. Castro, who spoke more than an hour after O'Rourke at the same National Action Network event, has been outspoken about the need to address the legacy of slavery. He's also your basic racist and communist. I have said many times during the last several weeks that I have long believed that our country will never truly heal until we address the original sin of slavery, Castro said. If, under our Constitution, we compensate people if we take their property, why wouldn't we compensate people who were considered property and sanctioned by the state? He asked the crowd. Make no mistake, the radical leftists of the Democratic Party are now fully pushing slavery reparations. That is money given to those who were never slaves, taken from those who have never owned slaves in the name of social justice and in the form of taxation. And the communists rejoice. Message from We Build the Wall Incorporated important. April 11 deadline. If you donated to Brian Kolfage's wall fund before January 11 and you want your contribution to go towards construction of the wall, you need to tell GoFundMe before April 11 by clicking the link below. If you do not tell GoFundMe before April 11, your contribution will be refunded and will not be used to build the wall. Construction is expected to begin this month. Click here to OPT and to have your money go towards building the wall. Donate now to build the wall with Brian Kolfage. Click below. Former Rep. Luis Gutierrez, DL, who has been experiencing health problems lately, surfaced over the weekend calling on mayors of major U.S. cities to open welcoming centers for caravan migrants. In essence, this is what the entire radical Democratic Party wants these days. Throw the borders wide open and embrace anyone and everyone who comes in. It is a political power play to pad their voter rolls and stay in power for decades to come. Gutierrez appeared on CNN to lay out his strategy. He is now a senior policy advisor for the National Partnership of New Americans, NPNA. Gutierrez is encouraging Democrats who control some of America's largest cities, such as Chicago and Los Angeles, to invite caravan migrants to stay in their cities, saying he hoped his party stands up for its principles. Oh, I'm sure they will. Gutierrez stated that America is the richest, most powerful nation in the world, and it should also be the nation with the biggest heart and a nation that has a great tradition of receiving refugees. He wants us to welcome an invading force and lose our sovereignty as a nation. Americans have no problem with immigrants who come here legally. But those that flaunt the law should not be welcome here. And I would say to the mayor of my own city, Rahm Emanuel, instead of hitting yourself on the chest every day about Jussie Smollett, invite them to come to Chicago, Gutierrez said, "LA invite them to come. New York. There should be welcoming centers all across America for these refugees, for these asylum seekers to find a home in America. That's what I believe people should be doing right now. In other words, who cares about fake hate crimes? After all, as Maxine Waters said, Smollett didn't kill anyone, he just incited violence against President Trump and his supporters. So, no biggie, right? Focus on the important things like pampering criminal illegals, drug dealers, gangbangers, and killers." The security and humanitarian crisis at our southern border is getting worse every day. I again ask Congress to act ASAP to give DHS the authorities we need to protect children from the terrible journey, discourage illegal immigration, and secure our border. Sec. Kirsten Nielsen, at Sec Nielsen March 31, 2019 from Breitbart. Gutierrez also challenged President Donald Trump, who announced this weekend that he will be cutting foreign aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, by saying the U.S. should provide more aid and job opportunities to Central American nations so Central Americans can stay in the countries that they love. Gutierrez made his remarks days after U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin K. McAleenan revealed that his agency last Monday saw the highest total of apprehensions and encounters in over a decade, with 4,000 migrants either apprehended or encountered at various ports of entry in a single day. Though many migrants seek to enter the U.S. to take advantage of its catch-and-release policies, asylum laws, and judicial backlogs, so many migrants have admitted to reporters that they are fleeing poverty that even establishment media outlets like CBS Evening News had to concede that most of the migrants coming to the United States do not qualify for asylum. A CBS Evening News report in October noted, "Most tell us they are fleeing extreme poverty, but that's not a condition for asylum or refugee status in the U.S." Trump will visit the border town of Calexico, California, on Friday, and he has repeatedly vowed to close the U.S.-Mexico border if Mexico does not do more to impede the migrants who are on their way to America. Mexico is tough. They can stop them. But they chose not to, Trump said on Friday. Now they got to stop them. If they don't stop them, we're closing the border. We'll close it, and we'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games. #Border News. In Central American countries they have pamphlets and flyers that tell them, just come to America. You'll be processed and released, given an opportunity. Here's a tiny snippet of my interview with Hidalgo Company. Sheriff Eddie Guerra. The full story airs at 5 on a KGBTpic. Twitter.com/.5hook. Sydney Hernandez, at Sydney KGBT. March 22, 2019. Gutierrez doesn't see us as a sovereign nation. He sees America as part of the Southern Hemisphere. This is a hemisphere, this is a hemisphere, Anna, this is the hemispheric problem of the America, Gutierrez said to panelist Ana Navarro. I rest my case. The border situation is at a breaking point. It's cloward and pivot on steroids and Congress can't seem to find the will to do anything at all. From the Independent Sentinel, in Texas, masses of migrants have been crossing the border in unprecedented numbers, overwhelming federal holding facilities and sending local leaders and volunteers scrambling to deal with the relentless waves of people, USA Today reported. It's staggering, really, we've never seen anything like this before, McAllen City Manager Roy Rodriguez told USA Today. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McAleenan said last week that the border crisis has hit a breaking point. That breaking point has arrived this week at our border, he said. CBP is facing an unprecedented humanitarian and border security crisis all along our southwest border. They expect 100,000 this month alone, and those are the ones they catch. The mother of all caravans heading our way includes more than 20,000 people, and there are at least 5 others in addition to all the usual hundreds who pour in daily. Congress is worthless, they won't do a thing. The Democrats are on a quest for national suicide and don't understand that instead of giving them power, this will kill the golden goose. These people don't have the moral high road here. Their intentions are anything but pure. Gutierrez is a communist and would revel over the destruction of the United States. Donate now to build the wall with Brian Kolfage. Click below.